Hello, hello. This is the Awful and Awesome Entertainment Wrap, episode 308. This is Rajyasree, and today I have with me Shubhra Gupta, who is the film critic for Indian Express, but more importantly, she has written her second book, which is Irrfan, A Life in Movies, and it's been published by Macmillan. This is your second book. And Shubhra has been part of the CBFC, which is the Central Board for Film Certification. She's won many awards and has been writing on cinema now for how many?
Over 20 years. Around 25 maybe. Yeah. 20 definitely.
So
for sure. Yes.
Welcome, Shubhra. It's a video part of a podcast, and then Shubhra is going to discuss some of, because unlike me, she's watched two things and I've watched one thing which is up to date with pop culture right now, so we'll review that as well. But first to the book. So to be honest, I read I think 25 of the interviews. And so the full thing I haven't read, to be honest. So I wanted to ask you, one is that why, like I've gone through your introduction, so I know what it is, but just for readers, why Irrfan as a subject?
Oh, right. Okay. Thanks, Rajyasree, for having me on your podcast. You can call it video, but I think podcast is nicer.
Yes, so do I.
So, Irrfan is actually really a no-brainer, despite the fact that I was a little reluctant when I began, because I really thought it was too soon when my friend Mimi called me. It had just been a month after Irrfan's passing, and I really I think we were still trying to wrap our heads around the fact that he wasn't in this world. Though we did know that he had been struggling with an illness which was not going away. Though he had there were times when it felt like he would beat it, but this was a rare form of cancer, which was survival rate wasn't exactly something that most people spoke about. So there was this thing about how he was at some point not going to be in this world, but when it actually happened, nobody was really expecting it, and I think it was compounded by the fact that we had the whole world, including India, had gone to one of the most stringent lockdowns in the pandemic that the world had ever known. So I think it was a double whammy of not quite knowing where we were at, and this really tragic loss of an actor and a performer who I think made things better. Yeah. So I think it was a combination of both of these things. And when Mimi Chaudhary, my friend who's also the agent on this book, she called, and I remember it was a really rainy day, and it was something like this, which was really, really awful. And it was kind of, I remember feeling very very closed in, and then she called and she started speaking to me about this book. And though we'd had many conversations about other books in the past, something about the construct of those books and the subsequent conversations with publishers didn't really go anywhere. But when she spoke about this one, my first reaction was, there's just been a book out on him.
Yeah, there was a biography.
There was a biography, which had just come out a couple of months before he passed away. And there had been just so much written around him and about him that I wasn't really very sure. And given the fact that I'd seen pretty much everything he's been in on it, I thought, most people know what I think of his work, and given that I had been, he was one of the few actors who really made us film critics' lives a little better.
Yeah, much better.
Apart from the fact that he made the material better. Yeah. So I didn't really jump at it, let me say. But then I started to think about it, and when Mimi said, she spoke to me about how it would be good to get a film critic's perspective on this, because a traditional biography is something different, right? You look at the person from his childhood to and to the sort of adolescence, adulthood, and so on, and then struck a career path. This would be more like casting an eye on him from his trajectory
as an actor. Yeah.
As an actor who began somewhere and who went somewhere,
yeah.
and how that journey went, and also more importantly, because he wasn't with us anymore, how his legacy has impacted what he stood for, what he's left behind, and how he has impacted this film industry, which is so hard to actually move from one inch to the other because it's so risk averse.
Yeah. So, just so that people know, it's a book where you've spoken to a lot of people across his career. Some people there are some people who haven't worked with him but who were affected by his time in cinema. So it's a collection of interviews also, which is broken up according to decades, right? And it has everyone from Rajat Kapoor, Tigmanshu Dhulia, Vishal Bhardwaj, who else? There's Naseeruddin Shah, there are
Meera Nair.
So
Sunita Arpurwala.
Yeah. So something which struck me, which you don't because you've seen him for so long, is the number of films he's been in from so long back. You remember the newer films, like was it English medium was the one he was in, not the
he
second
was
one.
No, he was with Hindi medium, and
he was in Hindi medium.
It was Angrezi medium.
Angrezi medium, yeah.
That was his last
Angrezi
film,
medium, then Pan Singh Tomar and all. But the earlier films that he was in and his TV career, that was there because everyone talks about Shah Rukh's TV career and all. So I think that a lot of the interviews you get those early days, his early days at NSD and all. But tell me, how easy was it? Because it's a wide range of people. Of course, you've met many of these people, I'm sure, over the years as well. But how difficult was it to just the process of writing this book, of meeting the people, choosing who you're going to speak to, and just conducting this interview process? Like, how difficult, or what was the process that you followed? Because it couldn't have been easy or simple.
Right. So basically, it was because of the fact that that as a critic, I had seen his work and I had assessed it, and it was, it was something that everybody could access. I flipped that whole process around, and I thought, let me talk to people who actually helped get him into the mold of becoming this actor that we really enjoyed on screen. So I started to speak to his, I began very clearly, I wanted to start with Chutopa Shikdor, with his wife, who was his partner in life and who started with him at National School of Drama.
That's what, it's such a long relationship. I was just looking at that whole, she's seen the full arc of his career, right?
Yes. So I was very clear, actually, that I wouldn't really begin working on this book until I have her, until she agreed to be on board. And there is something to be said about grief and about how, people who are close process that grief. And I wanted to be mindful of the fact that this would be a very hard time to reach out to someone who's going through such an intense difficult time. And when I reached out to her, though, to give her credit, she said she would be very happy to do this, and that she herself was thinking of writing a book. And I think for people who had only seen him up till then in something like Chandrakanta or even Bharat Ek Khoj in Shyam Benegal, he was in very few, but he made an impact. He, even in these little glimpses that he had, and on the periphery of those episodes, you knew that you were looking at a talent. You didn't know quite then about where he would go from here, but he did 10 years of television. 10 years of television, which finally was getting to him to a point where he had enough. He was done. And if bestsellers hadn't come to his rescue, he may have just turned his back on acting and just left.
But did you find it easy did you find people receptive when you reached out to them to speak about him?
Yes, they were very receptive, and I'm grateful that they actually gave me a lot of time. And the thing is, it was the pandemic. It was a lockdown, so
Oh,
I
so
actually
they-
found them all at home.
Yeah, that would have
they were
helped,
at
huh?
home, or they were in
Yeah.
a place where they could be accessed.
Yeah.
They had Wi-Fi, they had computers, and we did this entire book on Zoom.
Yeah.
I didn't meet. I mean, most of the people in there I have met before.
But you didn't need
Yeah,
to
I didn't need to,
physically, yeah.
because when I messaged them, they said, yes, when do you want to have this chat? I said, now.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was not all of them were, it wasn't immediate. It took me almost a year and
So
some.
the entire book took how long?
The
to...
entire book took about a year and a half, but
Okay,
the whole
which is not bad.
which
Bad.
is okay. I mean, 2021 March to about 2022 March was, and a few more months of people who were traveling or just not available, or people who were very reluctant to talk to me. Not because they didn't want to.
No, but because of
But
the
because
situation.
of the
I think.
situation, and I think they were just overwhelmed
Yeah.
by his absence.
Yeah.
People like Vishal Bhardwaj, for example, who said yes, who kept saying yes to me, and every time I would circle back to him, he would say, I'm busy, or
Yeah.
he wouldn't say anything, or he'd say a few more months, or he would say abhi thodi der mein. So by the time I got him across a table, so to speak, it was about 8 months of me trying to get him.
Yeah, but it's that reluctance of actually speaking. But I have to say, and then I read your forward after that, when I have a habit of looking at the content, and I was going through the names and I was looking for taboo. Because
Yes.
and then I read what you said, that she didn't.
Tabu, I tried through a friend of mine who's a friend of hers. I mean, friend in the sense,
Yeah.
someone whom I know very well, who really knows her well.
Yeah.
So and then she said she will speak to her, and she did apparently a few times. And then she gave me a direct number to get in touch with, and I did. But I heard from 2 or 3 people who are in the book that she was just she was too
Because
overcome.
she did some of her finest work.
All of her finest work
has been with him. That, especially that, like Maqbool, of course. That, so there's a lot of things I have to say in this book. When you read it, you will. Shows that took place on TV, which we might have forgotten about. The career arcs of various people. Tigmanshu Dhulia, this love for acting that Tigmanshu Dhulia, because whenever he acts, I'm like, oh, he's acting again. He really likes acting. But that passion for acting that he actually had, more than for directing. Then that KK Menon was supposed to be in Maqbool, and because it didn't work out with him, Irrfan was in Maqbool. There are lots of interesting trivia, anecdotes and all which come out, which if you're a movie buff or you follow cinema and enjoy cinema and TV, there's a lot of things which you get about. Also the way India has moved from the kind of cinema we used to have to some really scary, a phase which was scary cinema, I feel, and then how movies generated. So I really like that about the book also.
So the first, say the section, so to speak, is Shyam Benegal, because he did the initial Bharat Ek Khoj, then Tigmanshu did Hasil, Vishal did Maqbool. These are the people who got him started. And I think if he hadn't been around, and if someone else had done those roles, those films would have gotten made. But I don't think those films would have been the same.
Yeah.
So I was I was asking them about their lives as well. So if they wanted to come up with something that was, which was inimical to this, to the kind, I would have included it. But it was, to me, really an eye-opener that everybody I spoke to, practically everybody I spoke to, was somebody what did not really come up with anything that I could construe as negative.
Which is what
Yes, and I don't think they were putting
they were
on an
holding
act.
back.
No, I don't think so. There are a couple of the interviews where they will say that, he may have been a very difficult person to live with, because he was so, some people talk about his interiority and about the fact that he wasn't really somebody who was the heart and soul of the party.
Okay,
so,
even at one of the parties, who says that, where Nita Ambani's Geo.
Priyadarshan, yeah.
Yeah, that he was keeping to himself.
Yes, he was standing in a
Yeah.
corner and he was watching the world go by,
Yeah.
and he comes up to Priyadarshan
Yeah.
and says, "Ki, sir, aap yahan," and then they hang
Can
out
you give
together.
me,
Yeah, so I would say that I'm, like I said, I mean, nobody speaking for an hour and a half to a person across would possibly be something
Yeah.
would slip.
Yeah,
and
that's
I was
what.
watching
Or
out
a
for
tone
it.
will
Or a
come,
tone would
yeah.
happen, or something, or there would be slight
Yeah.
sarcasm, or I was attuned to that, but I did not. And to me, that was a great surprise.
And you get
really.
there were some candidates, like when his friends, that NSD lot speak, when Tigmanshu Dhulia and all speak, that like there'll be a little bitter, of course he admired a good looking woman, and which you expect. Those are college friend things which come out.
Uski gardan ghumti thi, he would say.
It's a funny line.
Yes.
But I also think another thing that comes through in your book is the importance of NSD in our determining the kind of people who work in cinema today. And it's such a... I was watching an interview of Ratna Pathak Shah and her sister Supriya as well. Like, it's just the kind of people who have come out of NSD, Naseeruddin Shah, Tigmanshu Dhulia, Irrfan. The role that school has played, this college has played, really comes through in your book. And I think that in itself actually is a story that the kind of people who walk through those classrooms, right?
Yeah, well, so there is an interesting anecdote, if you can call it that, in Tigmanshu's interview, where he was the casting director on, after The Warrior, he was the casting director on Bandit Queen, which Shekhar Kapur made, and which, and he tried... Tigmanshu says he tried very hard to get Shekhar to take Irrfan on, and Shekhar was adamant that he wasn't interested.
But who did he take? Nirmal Pandey.
Nirmal Pandey for that role. And he said, why? He said he wanted somebody that the moment people saw on screen, say, ye to marega. So he wanted somebody softer.
And you don't feel endearing towards Nirmal Pandey in that film at all. There's something about Irrfan, I used to feel his expression, or maybe it's his eyes. There was a little bit of softness that was there. Nirmal Pandey, I don't think. So the casting, I don't disagree with in that, but that anecdote is there.
The whole gang was from National School. It was almost like Shekhar walked in and said, "All of you, just come." It was like a roll call of the drama school, which was in that movie. But I think for Irrfan, I think he had a very singular presence. He did not. I mean, when he was literally on screen, you could not, you looked at him and you wanted to know what is this man going to do, because he would not do anything that you would expect him to. And for anyone, for a viewer or for a critic or for anyone who's interested in human behavior, somebody who does the unexpected is always somebody who is much more interesting to look at. You could never predict.
And he also broke that mold,
enter
that
left and
tall
exit
fair.
right. Yeah. He just wouldn't. So he would turn up, and then he would, apparently, a lot of the people in the book say that he would come, he would rehearse, and then he would completely, it would be gone. And then he would do whatever came from within, because he had internalized the whole scene by then. And everybody talks about the pleasure and the joy of that, and I'm sure the hard part of it is somebody who the director has marked, has got the lights are on, and then suddenly this man comes and does whatever he needs to. So I'm sure there must have been some ways in which they had
which
to...
is why some have said he was difficult to work with. He's difficult in that sense.
Yes, because he was a very... he wanted to be challenged. Many people in the book also talked about how he hated being bored. He hated it. It was almost like, he couldn't bear the idea of... Tilotoma has a lovely line in which they do a scene in the last film in Angrezi medium. And
I wanted to know, what are your favorite Irrfan films? Your top three.
My gosh.
Even I agree, it's difficult to pick and choose, but your top three films.
Wow, okay. Pan Singh Tomar, Maqbool, and The Namesake.
Oh, so the same as mine.
I mean, I'm not saying that one of them is on top of the other, but
and if
definitely.
there were 4, I'd say Tiku also. Tiku was quite
Tiku
sweet.
was lovely, but I'm not sure. But, I mean, I'm sure it would be in my top 10 for sure.
Pan Singh Tomar was an excellent
Pan
film.
Singh Tomar, I think, is just fabulous. There is no doubt about it at all.
And he acted so he used to remind me of, and his work still reminds me of Om Puri's over films, and this man who was, because I remember some of Om Puri's films, because he was so non-traditional looking. Like Naseeruddin looked more like a Bollywood star in comparison to Om Puri, but that when Om Puri's on screen, the way you just get mesmerized by that performance, I feel Irrfan took that, and of course the opportunities were so much more.
You know, the thing is, he was an international star before anyone really understood the measure of his stardom. Outside in 2007 and 2008, when he was making Pan Singh Tomar and Life in a Metro, he was already on the radar of so many of these Hollywood tentpole
and not just as an
directors.
Not as an Indian character.
No, that's
the
whole
thing.
point. No, he refused. I mean, toward the end, apparently, Shutopa said he was working. He was so many scripts that were coming in, and that were definitely not of your. A cab driver or a corner store grocer. None of the traditional Indian roles that people have been shoehorned into in Hollywood films. They were being written for him. In fact, his manager at that point, she talked about how Irrfan had gone past auditioning. He didn't have to audition.
He didn't have to audition anymore.
They were writing roles. They were reaching out to him. For him.
Yeah. I want to make a special mention of Shrutapa, that because what is considered technicians, script writers, dialogue writers, and all, people don't give them, they aren't that much in the spotlight, but she herself is such a well-established person in the cinema world, because she writes dialogue scripts also.
She's a script writer. She wrote all of Banegi Apni Baat, which was Zee TV.
That's what I was reading.
93 when Zee TV started.
Yeah.
It revolutionized the whole fiction, television fiction, because they brought in Tara, they brought in Banegi Apni Baat, which was this amazing
it was
love
lovely.
that, it was an Indian family, but an Indian family of here and now.
Yeah.
And Irrfan plays a father in that, Ritu Raj's father. And she talks about how everybody in that was, you write the best roles for your husband, and she said it is not about that, it is about the feeling that he infuses into those dialogues that makes them special. I write for everybody.
But I think that's what her career itself is so impressive, because it's something I feel is a disadvantage for anyone who's not in front of the camera faces, or unless you're a director, that all the people who are doing that, like if you don't have a good script and you don't have good dialogue, there's really not much. Like Shah Rukh can come and waltz in, and Shah Rukh will carry the film. But her career is so impressive itself. That also struck me.
Her career and her contribution to Irrfan's growth, because all the scripts that he passed them by her, she had a very high meter, in terms of a bullshit
judging,
meter of looking at the scripts, and if it passed her very stringent approval, then it would go straight through. She has a very strong sense of what a story
what will work and what will not.
And everybody in the book acknowledges the fact.
Yeah, so I think that comes through very clearly. Till such time, please buy Irrfan, A Life in Movies. It's available in bookstores and it's available on Amazon. Go to a bookstore. It's nicer to do that. And thank you so much. And stay on. We are going to be discussing some shows and films. And for that, you will have to log on to the website or subscribe to the podcast. Also, we launched our Press Freedom Fund in May to celebrate Press Freedom Month. It's an NL Sena project that will include deep dive reports, commentaries, videos on press freedom, health of the media ecosystem. And we've extended the deadline for this. So please help us tell these stories by contributing to this project. You can click on the link which is given over here as well, or we've got the link below, and it's newslaundry.com/nl-sena/press-freedom-fund and contribute. See you on the other side.
The subscription model is something that keeps News Laundry afloat, but we need hundreds of thousands of people to completely transform the news ecosystem. So you pay for news, so it serves you. So click on the link with this video, subscribe to News Laundry and pay to keep news free, और गर्व से कहो मेरे खर्च पर आज़ाद है खबरें.